Good evening and welcome to another Live with Dr. Dawn. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn 𝗚𝗎𝗓𝗓, double board certified child lesson adult and sports psychiatrist. I'm a two-time best-selling author, producer, podcaster, media influencer. I'm the sole practitioner of ADHD Wellness Center in Houston, Texas, as well as mental health athletics for elite athletes. Listen, y'all, you already know what to do. Go ahead and let me know that you are in the virtual space with the broadcast this evening. Let me see you. Hi, Nisi. Let us know where you're viewing from. Thank you so much for spending your night with us because I have yet another special broadcast for you. So go ahead and share this with at least 5 people you know. Go ahead and do that right now. Hi, Yolanda. Thanks for joining us this evening. Hi, Yolanda. Another Yolanda. Thanks for joining us this evening. And let them know that this is a very important discussion that we are about to have. It involves every individual and their families, our communities, our world. We're going to be talking about how we're separating facts from myths about the COVID-19 vaccine. But before I do, you can find me on all social media platforms at www.drdawnpsychmd.com, and I am happy to connect with you. You know, before we get started, I actually wanted to do something special. We're honoring, the man, the dream, the memory, the fight, the flight, the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, and all that he stood for us to have equality and equity in our world, for mankind. And I want to go ahead and just give 10 seconds of silence in his honor. May his light continue to live on in all of us. Thanks again for joining us. All right. And before we get started, I am actually going to introduce my guests. And before I bring them on, you all have seen them before here on the Dr. Dawn platform. They are regulars now. They're actually both my mentors, and how blessed I am to have one of my mentors in the field of psychiatry and another of my mentors in the field of business on this tonight in the same platform, again, to talk about incredible discussion this evening. I will start with Dr. Napoleon Higgins. Dr. Napoleon Higgins is a board-certified psychiatrist, child lesson and adult psychiatrist. He's actually the CEO and president of Bay Point Behavioral Health and Southeast Houston Research Group. He's also the medical director of Hold My Hand Residential Center. Dr. Carlos Vitale is an advisor on healthcare and small businesses to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Nancy Pelosi. He's a board-certified physician in adult and pediatric allergy, asthma, and immunology. Now, usually I will tell you all about their accolades, but listen, it would take up the entire show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them on. I will let them go ahead and introduce themselves, share what they would like to share, and we're going to actually get the conversation started. All right. So I bring to you Dr. Higgins and Dr. Vitale. Hey, bros, how are you doing this evening?
Great. We're doing very well.
Doing well and happy to be here.
Great, great. How's your mental, everybody? Both of you all, how's your mental doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, hanging in there. Life's been busy. Life's been busy lately with everything going on, but it's been good.
Good, good. So Dr. Higgins, I'd like to start with you. If there's any additional information or just repeat any information that you would like the audience to know about you, please share that at this time.
Well, I would like to say first that I am a friend of Dr. Don. I'd like for everyone to know that. And I'm also a fan as well. I'm in private practice, Southeast Houston area, right here in the Clear Lake area. Me and Dr. 𝗧𝗢𝗚𝗛𝗧's practice are really literally around the corner from each other. And it's good to be here today addressing the community all over the nation and world and representing the South Side of Houston.
All right. Dr. 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗚𝗛𝗧.
Well, it's an honor to be on with both of you. Both of my, you all are mentors to me too, as well as partners in this healthcare field. I'm Dr. Carlos Vita. I'm a board certified allergy, asthma, immunology physician. I have a CEO and president of Vital Allergy and Asthma Center. I have two locations, one in the Med Center and one right around the corner from Dr. Napoleon Higgins. And I also do work as Dr. Dawn spoke about for the government, for Congress, for the Speaker of the House, and for the Governor Abbott. And also I do some work with the COVID task force and other task force in the U.S. and small business, making sure businesses are good across the United States and in healthcare as well. My bad. I'm also chief of allergy at 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗚𝗛𝗧 Park Plaza Medical Center.
And they're just giving you some highlights of their curriculum vitae and what they do, because we know that they do much more. Many of them that know Dr. Higgins and 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗚𝗛𝗧, they're outstanding community members, and they actually are very involved in all aspects of medical health, which is why I have them here. So Dr. Higgins and Dr. 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗚𝗛𝗧, let's go ahead and just have a candid conversation this evening, shall we? I'd like just to start off just about what your thoughts are in general, overall, about COVID-19 vaccine. What's the general?
Well, I guess you want me to say? Okay, so my thoughts are, I think the COVID-19 vaccine is very important to be out as a sort of a preventative measure. One of the things that when we started looking at this last year is we looked at what are we going to do to hopefully not only stop the spread. At this point, stopping the spread means decreasing, using mitigation tactics like masks, social distancing, etc. But the other thing we also spoke about is looking at how can we, look at developing something that can decrease the severity of the disease once you get it. And then also looking at hopefully making this pandemic, which could be possibly an endemic later on, be not as intensely affecting us across America and around the world. So that's where the development of vaccines came about. You have the two vaccines that are out now, Pfizer, BioNTech, right? And then also you have Moderna, right? And so those utilize two new technologies called messenger RNA vaccinations, which has been out for about 7 years. And the way it works is basically the mRNA comes in and is reverse transcribed into DNA, which creates proteins that are against antibodies against the glycoprotein, what we call the spike protein. And so those were the two that were in development that are out now. And what we are seeing some promising results. We'll talk about that later. But then there are other vaccines that are being developed around the world. And there are two more that are coming out now. There are about 7 that are out right in development. But the thought is that these vaccines, they haven't been proven to decrease the spread, right? But what they are showing benefits that once you get it, your symptom severity is diminished greatly. And hopefully we can look at improved survival, and those studies are ongoing. But the thoughts is that hopefully with vaccine development, we can get to in implementation. We have some logistical challenges. But hopefully we can get to herd immunity. The thought was initially 65 to 70% of people who take it, we can get to herd immunity, but maybe they're thinking maybe a little bit more around 85%. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm kind of excited about stuff like this. So.
No, that's good. No, that's great. We're excited that you're excited.
But there's one more thing that's very important, and the psychological impact, and the not just with the psychological impact of social, the social distancing and physical distancing and shutdowns and inability to communicate, but there are also psychological impacts of the disease itself, and the psychological impact of physicians and healthcare workers and frontline workers taking care of these patients, and the psychological impacts we have, the PTSD. And so it's really brought psychiatrists like you, Dr. Don, and Dr. Napoleon Higgins, both of you, into the forefront of really the front lines of fighting this pandemic.
Yes. Dr. Higgins, would you like to actually go ahead and give us an understanding what your position is on this vaccine?
Well, the thing is that we really have to get through the psychological issues and the issues of fear, of which is sometimes will slow down the vaccine and getting out to people, getting to the populations that we needed to get to. So often, we are very concerned, especially in Black and brown communities, but all communities, with the disinformation, the misinformation, the poor information, some of that from administrative standpoint, but then also poor information going out even about the virus from day one, both from the media and within the other systems of which we received information. I'm so happy to hear that we've dropped off on some of those other myths. But those things are still problematic when it comes to today, because so much bad information went out when we didn't understand much, so much misinformation went out that now people don't know what to believe. And then, I still see people who don't believe that there is a virus. I still see people who don't believe that they could actually catch it. And those psychological issues of denial, and then now we're looking at trying to get people the treatment and the safety of what vaccines can do. And that is now impacted as well, especially when you're looking at still poor information, misinformation, a lack of information, the experts not spreading the information, people like Dr. 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗜𝗧, who are on the cutting edge line of all of this type of work. Too often we're not hearing from people such as yourself, we're hearing from these other folk. And then also we need to be able to hear from our people that we trust. So the psychological impact of the virus, of the illness, of the vaccine, and of the education or lack thereof is definitely still impacting us as a people, which actually increases our likelihood of death and dying from this illness.
Right, exactly. I was going to actually just comment on Carlos's comment that he's so excited about it. He's getting ahead of himself. No, we're excited that you are, because here is where we get the fine education, right? The access to understand people's concerns, to understand what it is about this virus that prevents people from wanting to get the vaccine, what their personal experiences are, and just address those issues. And that leads me to my next question about the historical perspective of medicine, right, in general, because it does play a part in why some people don't believe or don't want to get the vaccine. And it's more than Tuskegee, it's more than Miss Henrietta. It's a daily occurrence that some people actually experience racism within medicine. Can we talk a little bit about this, Napoleon? We had something that happened in psychiatry world today. The American Psychiatric Association actually did a press release and basically made a bold apology to Black, Brown, Indigenous people that they are sorry that they have been silent for years of treating or indirectly or directly being a part of the mistreatment, the injustices with providing mental health care of equitable means to Black, Brown people, Indigenous people. And I thought that was an awesome statement, but being a psychiatrist and also being a patient that actually sees a psychiatrist, I felt a lot of emotions about that statement. I don't want to get too off course, but it does relate to how some individuals have come to probably both of us in our own private practice and had these conversations about the vaccine for their parents, for the elderly, for themselves, for their kids eventually. So what are your thoughts on how this relates historically, and how can we address this as Black and brown people to our community specifically?
Well, Dr. Dunn, you said a mouthful about what's going on right now, and we see we see the hypocrisy is self-evident right now. The hypocrisy right now is self-evident, as displayed on January 6th versus what you saw with Black Lives Matter. So the differences are apparent throughout the nation. And you will still have those who are in denial, and they walk amongst us. And that is very fearful for us as Black people. And that can even transfer even into medicine. And when you look at the historical nature of the mistreatment of individuals and how we were brought over, how many of us were brought over on slave ships, and the testing and the ways that they tested people to see if they were sick or not, with their archaic means of not seeing people as cattle versus actually seeing people as humans. You take that and then you bring it all the way up through slavery, not to mention our native counterpart. Mom's house, she's passed away. We're going through some documents, and I'm history. And you think about what that historical trauma has been, and how illnesses, and you eliminated a couple of individuals. Millions of people die because of illnesses. So this historical context is not only questionable. We don't question whether it's true. Basis on which it's been passed down, I would say, both by story, by generation, even by what happened to. Still have this historical issue, and then you get up to Tuskegee, realizing that.
Dr. Higgins, I know you're saying some.
And honestly, up to now. Into the 2000s, where they were doing testing, they were doing.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to have him rejoin us there, because I know he's saying some vital information that we all need to hear, and I'm just getting bits and pieces of it.
Vital information, exactly.
Vital, that's right, Dr. Patel. Vital, that's right.
I'm joking. I got to pick up on what he was saying, though.
Yes.
So basically, and my parents, they met at Tuskegee Institute, and my daddy, who's an Omega, and my mom, who's a Delta, 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗓. The big thing about it is the fact that there have been a lot of atrocities, and the issue is that there has been a lot of issues with questions of whether or not we're just guinea pigs, whether or not we are people who are in a situation where we're just being tested upon and not given good therapy. One of the things they were also looking at is mortality with Black women and with prenatal and perinatal mortality. And it doesn't matter whether you're wealthy or non-wealthy. And those things still exist. And what he was referring to as well as with January 6th is the difference in the way, police treat people of color versus people who may not, other individuals, and the mob, who was predominantly white men and women. And so those things are obvious things, have to be addressed, and those things have to be addressed when you're talking about delivering healthcare in the healthcare system in America as well. And that's something actually that's a big emphasis for the next administration. So Dr. Higgins is back. So
yes, Dr. Higgins, please say everything you just said, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know where I lost y'all. Oh my goodness! You know how you upgrade the internet, and
you were at Tuskegee. So I talked about my parents went to Tuskegee. So then just carry on from there.
All right, so you have Tuskegee, but you had before Tuskegee with the issues that were going on, and you look at slavery, and even the father of psychiatry, how he would make these comments that Black was the issue of reverse illness, of which you could treat the blackness off of black people, and they would be white people, and think just the same, because he saw us as a different type of people, or a subhuman, or being black was an illness. Then you even saw, the father of OBGYN and the studies that he did, where he would hold these slaves down and use these probes and do surgery while they were awake, and do invasive surgery and remove organs while people were awake. And these atrocities are real. These are things that are well documented in books. And when you look at this Tuskegee syphilis incident, I know when we were studying for a board exam, they had a picture of a black man with the syphilitic injury. And I'm saying to myself, what's the chance that that picture that they're using even to this day is from somebody from the Tuskegee syphilis incident? And then you even look up to now, where just recently in the 2000s, where they were showing that prisoners and people in jails and prisons were being used for studies, where the question was, how can you do informed consent while you're locked up inside of a prison? Because you would be given special privileges in order to stay inside the study. So these things have gone into this day. And I just saw it was a dermatologist who just got removed from a medical school for the work that he had just done. This man is still alive, and the work that he had done on prisoners. So these issues are real. And then when you look at the issue of
oh, I think we lost him again.
The issue of something.
They have the issue where they were sending black nurses in to take care of
black nurses.
Dr. Higgins, can you join us from your cell phone, please? Try your cell phone, your mobile phone. We're gonna have him join.
Am I back out?
Yes.
You back in.
You mind joining us from your cell phone? I'll go ahead and send this through the comment section in the background for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't have any problems.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I hear you perfectly, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna re-sign back in.
Okay.
Good.
So Saint trying to be busy, but he's not going to steal this joy here.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Dr. Patel, you actually had a question in the room, and I want to make sure I address it. Yolanda says, Dr. Patel, will you reiterate what taking this vaccine will do for those who do not understand what a vaccine is and does?
Oh, good job, Yolanda. So what a vaccination is it's a primer. So what it does is it primes your immune system to recognize a virus, right? So that your immune system can develop an appropriate immune response later when it's presented with the actual real virus. And so, well, in this situation, you have two things. You have, so for the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccination, it is basically a vaccination to the protein. So the what we call the spike protein. So the spike protein is the apparatus that the coronavirus is used to actually infect you and cause you to have disease. And so the thought is, if we have a vaccination to the glycoprotein, then our bodies will develop an immune response so that we won't have severe disease later when we are basically faced with an infection, and so exposure to the virus. And so the thought is that 93 to 95% effectiveness of our immune response to the virus is based upon certain factors like SaO2, keeping your SaO2 going from below 85%, respiratory rate, and things of that nature. We haven't done, they're still looking at mortality as well, but we hope, and we're also looking at, does it decrease the spread of the virus? Now, there is a thought that the third vaccination that's coming out may decrease the spread of the virus. That is the AstraZeneca vaccination. Those studies are being done in Brazil, and in the UK, and some in America as well. And interestingly enough, there's 1 dose and 2 dose. They're looking at both of those, and so they actually have better. They're actually getting good results with half of the first dose, and then the second dose 28 days apart. But we'll talk a little about that later. But the thought is, the vaccination, any vaccination, just like almost like we call about allergy vaccines too. The vaccination primes your immune system so that you can be strong enough to fight off the illness when you present it to it or present it with it later.
Thank you. Thank you for that excellent, thorough answer.
Thank you, Yolanda Robertson, for the question too, and God bless you.
Yes, she's a Xavierite.
Oh, that's you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Dr. Napoleon, spitting knowledge, dropping the knowledge, as Yolanda said.
Yeah, so
Information.
all right, so I switched computers here. So, all right, so the issue becomes when you look at the typhoid fever and the historical nature of it, where essentially they sent in, it was greatly attacking the white community initially. Typhoid fever really doesn't affect Black people. All right, and they sent in Black nurses and Black doctors and Black caretakers to take care of individuals, but then it spread within the Black community. And the historical tie to this nature is, if you look at the, essential workers, who are the people who were made to go into the hospital? So many of that, the people who were cleaning and things of that sort were the Black people, the Black workers. And then you look at how Spanish flu was done, and they said it really didn't attack the Black, but Black doctors were saying the problem is that the public health system is not coming out to these rural areas. When Blacks were more in the rural areas, they weren't going out to the people. And so you have time, or they would just say, as back in the day, the person just kicked the bucket and you had no idea what they died from, even though that was a pandemic. So there's a history of how we've done viruses and treatment that causes people to question the entire thing, which keeps us from receiving good treatment and care. So, even to this day, we heard about, I don't know how many of you all got those emails about 5G towers. It was 5G towers causing people not to breathe, because I had a boy and he at the place and they had the radiation, and then the radiation was causing people not to breathe. That stuff, and then even stuff about the vaccine that has come out, where they said that it's a microchip inside the vaccine that's tracking Black people. Even in our Latinx community, people are very fearful that when you get the shot or if you get the vaccine, they're going to figure out where you live and where you stay. And if you're illegal, and that's going to get your parents and family in trouble, you're going to lose finances. All of these stories are going out, and I get these emails from good intending folk. All right. So it's important that we get out there and we fight against historical nature. And one thing I'll let you know is that reading on the family history, that my great grandmother was a medicine woman. All right. So essentially, she did treatments on her own that some people actually say were quite effective. Understand that vaccines are not anything new. This is not a 100-year-old thing or a 200-year-old thing. Mm-hmm. Herd vaccination for individuals, people, and it goes back centuries. Mm-hmm. That goes back centuries, where they would take a little prick from an infected person and prick the community in order that they build an immune response. So mm-hmm. these things were already done. So we have to take it from the mystery of I would say the mystery of the white man has come up with something and he's gonna get us, versus not even recognizing our own technology comes from Africa. That these are things that were already done, and they've got pictures of people doing it in Africa. So understand that we have to teach a new narrative so that we can at least understand where the problem is from, so that we can make better decisions.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. What about this vaccine, you all, is in regards to how do you develop full immunity when you receive the vaccine? I want to make sure that this is clarified. So when someone is given how many doses are people given, first of all? And then does this mean that they develop full immunity from the virus? And then does this mean that they no longer have to social distance or no longer have to mask up?
Okay, so I'll answer that question. So there's a couple things. So number one, the vaccination. So it's 4 or 5 different questions in there. Number one is, what is the effectiveness of the vaccination? So for the messenger RNA vaccination, the effectiveness is around 93 to 95%. So you have a 93 to 95% chance of, if you get the infection, then you won't have quote unquote severe symptoms based upon respiratory rate, O2 sats, etc. And the other vaccinations, the later vaccinations, the effective rate is approximately, initially was 70 to 80, 75%, but it will start to be a little bit safer. All right. And the reason being is that because the messenger RNA is a little bit newer technology, and for Moderna in particular, the RNA is 3 times what the Pfizer is. The RNA protein is 3 times what Pfizer is. All right. So then the issue is that we're finding that some patients are having more what we call side effects from Moderna than with Pfizer. All right. So for messenger RNA in general, if you have and I know this wasn't, I want to be fair and balanced, because I think the thought is that if you're fair and balanced, then people will take that information and decide, okay, what's best for me. So if you do the messenger RNA vaccinations and you have a history of reactions, anaphylaxis, all right, then there is a chance that you can have a 10-fold increase in responses, in particular with the Moderna, but with both of them. All right. So the thought is that you may want to wait for the DNA vaccination. One is basically a vector of chimpanzee, and that's the AstraZeneca vaccination. Then there's another Janssen vaccination where it's just one shot. All right. Or you can do one shot and another one 56 days later. Now, the efficacy of those are as follows. The interesting thing is with the AstraZeneca vaccination, the one dose was like around, I don't know, like 70%. But when they did half of the first dose, and then 28 days later they did the whole dose, the efficacy went up to 95%, which is very fascinating. But when they did full doses, the efficacy was less. So I thought it was very interesting. So then the jury's still out on that, and that vaccination should be coming out. And they thought that might be the vaccination for the world, because you do not have to store those vaccines at a lower temperature. Now, the storage for Pfizer, you have to have very, very cold temperatures, right? And the Moderna too. It doesn't have to be as cold as the Pfizer, but the AstraZeneca vaccination and Janssen vaccination should come out with it should be refrigerated regularly. So the storage aspects of those are actually pretty good. So then that's the thought with how the vaccines work, the efficacy around 99.5%. The next question, 70 to 95%, depending upon which vaccine you use. The other question is, will you have immunity? Now, as we spoke about with the last discussion, when we had a meeting with Dr. Fauci, and I'm on one of the committees for the COVID task force for Texas, Southeast Texas, we discussed that the fact of the matter is immunity may last six months, or it could last up to 9 months, or even a year. But the thought is we may have to end up getting this vaccination annually. All right. Now the other thing is, if you have an infection, what's the thought? What do you need to have a vaccination? Right. So you still the thinking is you still need to be vaccinated even with an infection. Usually the thought at this point is you wait, let's say 60 to 90 days. All right. And so the last point is when will we be able to take off the mask and be living like normal, quote unquote, right? When do we get to herd immunity? 85% immunity either through vaccination or through getting an infection. You get to 85% herd immunity. Initially it was 65%. Remember 65%? But they upped the numbers, right? So once you get there, then we'll be more normalized, quote unquote. When that will happen? We thought initially it would be September. Now some are saying maybe early 2022, right? So then that's the thought. But some still hold out hope that it may be hopefully by July and August. From a regulatory perspective, there's a huge push by the 46th president of the United States. When he takes office, he's going to put a lot of funding, into healthcare, into vaccination, and use the Defense Production Act to really push it out And so there shouldn't be an issue, hopefully, in the next 30 to 60 days with supply, because they're going to try to ramp up the supply. He'll probably talk about that on Wednesday, but you got a preview to that tonight. So
on the live with Dr. Dawn.
It was a lot, but hopefully I answered those questions.
Yes, thank you, Dr. 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗚. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
There's one thing. There's one last thing I mentioned was the fact that anaphylaxis rate. So the anaphylaxis rate right now, I believe it's like 11 per million, right? And before, I think for flu was 1 per million. That's where we get the 10 times more likely of having anaphylaxis if you had allergy to the flu vaccination. And polyethylene glycol, I'm sorry, is the component that's thought that may be causing some of these reactions, along with the RNA, if you have a problem with vaccinations in general, right? And so yes, that's just another thought.
No, great information. And so what I want to clarify, if I heard you correctly, so for those who have had problems or previous problems with this particular polysaccharide, should they wait out for the DNA virus? Is that what you say? Or
okay, so what we're saying now is to be evaluated by an allergist or somebody who can kind of delineate that on a case by case basis. If you're able to get the vaccination, right? And you've had a reaction, then we usually say we'll pre-medicate and say wait 30 minutes to an hour to see if you have a problem with it, right? Now, there is something called non-IgE mediated reactions, and I don't know if you heard, that was on TV recently about a guy who had angioedema and a surgeon had to go. So the angioedema is thought to be caused by the dermal fillers in the vaccine, in particular the Moderna vaccination. And so the thought there is that that's not a contraindication to getting the vaccine at all. So if you had angioedema, then the thought is you because it's from the dermal fillers, the recommendation now is via the CDC and the college and the academy is you still are eligible to get the vaccination, period.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So, Dr. Napoleon, they've actually, I believe, in the process now of distributing or about to distribute, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the 1B class, those who are at risk, like elderly population over 65, who have chronic illnesses and diseases. This is the population that is about to be distributed the vaccine. Is that correct? And working with the elderly.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
No, people are chopping at the bits trying to get to this vaccine. People are understanding that it's essentially either you're waiting to get the vaccine or you're waiting to get COVID. It's almost to where it's going to be one or the other. And right at last I knew, about 1 in 16 Americans have had COVID or will either have it or have had it. And honestly, I was just driving down the street the other day, and I don't want to call where it was because everybody in Houston would know where it is. And the place was packed. I'm looking at Black people inside, outside, down the street. The place is jumping. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, oh, okay, at least one, there has to be 1 in 16 in there who has COVID. And the super spreader has no symptoms. So if there's going to be loud music and you're going to be yelling, and then the alcohol takes away your disinhibition, it disinhibits you, and that the conversations are going on, that certain amount of that people in that room are several are going to die with this virus and where it is right now. The thought is that we need to get the virus out, and then also people are becoming COVID fatigue, in that they've tried long enough. They've been working hard at staying socially distant. But if you work for yourself, you work alone, or you work alone at your house, on Zoom feeds, you live alone by yourself and you're not having connections, it's only so long that people can stay in. And then some people are just like, forget it, I'll just do whatever. And so the need to get this virus out and the mental fatigue that it's taking on is a serious issue, because there's another pandemic going on of mental health.
Right.
Alcoholism is through the roof.
Yep.
Use is through the roof. There are people committing suicide at a higher rate right now, and the rates are picking up because of the stress that they're under. So with finances and not being able to continue on with your in the way you used to, the loss of individuals or loved ones, all of those things are and crisis come. So the thought is that they need to get the vaccine out. You know, there are people who vaccine, and those of us who want the vaccine need to be able to get the vaccine. But as Dr. 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗚𝗛 talked about, you have more vaccines coming out. So essentially, I describe it as kind of watching a race where you have, it's a distance race. This is a marathon, and you're going to have one or two people who will break. All right, and then you'll have a couple more people behind that. But then after that, you people coming in together, and the same thing goes on with this vaccine.
Amen.
So that yes, the cavalry is coming. You can hear the ambulance and the sirens coming while you're hurt and injured, and you just need to hold on until everyone can get this vaccine so that we can get better. Understanding that, and I will take it back historically. Ever go to a black church and the sheet over the communion table, put on the white gloves, and they put on the thing, or the ladies put the napkin over their head? That's all showing cleanliness and that we have washed and cleaned ourselves so that we can serve food to the community. So the fact is that we need to have those who are serving to get washed and cleansed, get their own vaccination so that they can serve it out to the community. So I know you want your wine and your cracker right now. Maybe you're hungry and waiting for church to be over. But the fact is that if you just wait, they're going to get to you. And we got to make sure that we restore that hope.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Which brings up another question. That many healthcare providers and physicians have been visible on social media to show their stance that the vaccine is safe by posting their experience on receiving the vaccine. Yet initially, there still continues to be some healthcare providers who are voicing their concerns of the new vaccine technology, specifically focusing on the spread or the speed at which this vaccine was produced. What is your response to those concerns?
Well, so to be fair and balanced, there are some of the concerns are valid, and we had a discussion about the speed at which the vaccines were made, and the messenger RNA ones, the Pfizer and Moderna in particular, because the technology has been around about 7 years, 8 years, but there has been concerns with that. But the thing is that they have been proven to be effective, and they have been proven in the patient population, like we talked about, to be, we have, I believe, 25 episodes of anaphylaxis, and at this point per million, and so, or 21 per million. And the issue is, if you don't have a severe allergic reaction or anaphylaxis, then you will be okay with most likely getting the vaccinations, right? Even the ones that are quote unquote more problematic. So the thing is that you do need to get the vaccinations. I believe individuals should get vaccines. I think that in consultation with your physician, this is a thing that's going to help us to decrease the severity of this disease and of this illness. And I believe that as we go along, there'll be more vaccines that come out. But if you have vaccines that are available to you, you should take them. And if there are any questions you have, you should discuss those with your physician or your provider. If you get stressed out about it, then you should discuss those with your psychiatrist. I know we've had a bunch of physicians who've had vaccinations, and most of them done very well. And I think that going out and promoting and showing, because a picture's worth 1,000 words, those things do help. They help the people who look like us, right? People who look like us getting Pfizer, getting the Moderna, eventually getting the other vaccinations. So that is important. The other thing is the supply, right? We have to make sure that when those supplies become available, we're able to go out and get those if we can. The biggest things going out moving forward logistically is We have to try to get as many people vaccinated as possible so that we can get to herd immunity, right? Some people can handle, as Dr. Napoleon Higgins so eloquently stated, some individuals, you're either going to get the vaccine or you're going to get the disease or the COVID infection. And so the thing is, you want to be able to give yourself a chance to live and to live well and a good quality of life in the future. And so that's very important. I like your quote, Dr. Higgins. So.
I do too.
Thank
you. Thank you, Dr. 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗚𝗛𝗧. Dr. Napoleon, are you actually seeing cases of depression? Are you treating depression more? I know in my practice, I'm seeing many more teachers, many more college students who actually have been basically dealing with a lot of stress, right? Surrounding school education, right? Not being able to go or having these hybrid classes, having additional work that they have to, are responsible for, not being able to teach kids who may not have internet access and making sure they're well. I mean, there's so many mental health disparities as well as incidents that are occurring during this time. What has been your response, or how have you been able to assist your community, your patients at this time with this other pandemic, as you referred to?
Yes, the issue is, as stated, but what we're seeing is it's showing and exposing the ills that we have in society and socioeconomic status and social determinants of health, where essentially now we're at home and you're finding out that 40% of the Black community in the Houston area does not have internet. And you're trying to do work from home. And now we're trying to find these students. We've lost a lot of students, where they've lost, I want to say about 15,000 students who were in school last year, who are not in school this year, especially when they were doing the virtual learning. So they're trying to get students back in school. And oddly enough, they've shown to do pretty good now with students not seeing infection. So those issues are going on. And so the problem has become, it's just spreading, the length, the time, and it's showing all that we needed to correct a long time ago. Basically, it's like you got visitors in your house right now, and they're seeing clothes all over the living room. There are certain things that we have and ills that we have in America that are being exposed, and we're trying to work through people with that. But it's really hard as clinicians and doctors, and many times psychiatrists, we get to know people on a very intimate level. So I know where you work, how many kids you have inside your house, what your kids do. And you've been working with somebody over 10 years, and now this pandemic is hit, and you're watching them go down. So you have this emotional connection to an individual who's now gone 9 months without work. How hard they worked to get that home, and how hard they worked on their marriage, and you're seeing these things dissolve right in front of you, and it's like quicksand, or just trying to hold sand in your hand, and they're just sliding through there, and you're trying to hold them up. So the mental fatigue of that, and then people such as Carlos Vital, you're trying to get out the word, and you're seeing that the word is not getting out like you want it to, and it's frustrating to watch people die, and you're looking at the teachers who are afraid and scared to get COVID inside the classroom because they're sitting in there with 30 kids in the classroom, 25, 30 kids in the classroom, because a lot of teachers have quit. Some have even passed away. And now you're trying to educate individuals during those time periods. And I even know people who work on these COVID units where they're burning out. They're watching people die. And it's inhuman to just watch this go on over and over and over, knowing that you're going to walk away from a shift, see a patient that you don't expect to be there the next morning. So these issues are really bearing down on us. And that's why it's so important that we need to move the information forward, get it out, give some shelter and care to the patients, but also to ourselves. I had to give a nurse a couple of weeks off. I've been working on this COVID unit. We haven't had a break since March, and I've seen hundreds of people die. Well, hey, here's a letter. Here go your 2 weeks off to go veg out, to get yourself together, because having to run yourself into a closet so you can cry, or, covering up your mouth so you can scream, covering your mouth so that you can just scream to get it out, and then walk right back in there and complete the rest of another 10 hours because you just stepped 2 hours into your 12-hour shift. These things are damaging to individuals, and we're seeing that mental health pandemic roll out that's not covered much on the news. But I know for yourself, and for myself, and every psychiatrist and therapist I know, their doors are full right now of people who are seeking care and help.
Yes, yes, yes. In one hand, it's so devastating to just hear all the stories, but on the other hand, I'm so happy that they're reaching out. I'm so happy that they found platforms, if it's whether virtual or they're actually for the very first time going into the office to have these conversations with psychiatrists, with therapists. And it just proves to us that we also have to do the same thing, as you stated. And that's one of the things that I wanted to also ask is that even as a private practice physician, are you able to get the vaccine now, Dr. Napoleon, or what do we tell those who are in private practice? How are they able to get the vaccine as well? Because that's a question that has come up quite a number of times.
Yes, I was able to get the vaccine. I do some work and volunteer work within the city of Houston, on the task force of getting the information out. So I was able to get the vaccine. I will say that I did have the arm soreness was more than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be more like the flu shot. And I was like, no, it's a little bit more than that. And I did feel a body aching for about 2 days. And then I woke up. It was funny. I took it on a Friday. I felt it even on Sunday. And as the day went on Sunday, as the day went, the better I felt, and woke up Monday morning like I had never taken a shot, So it was good to be able to get it, and we're hoping that more physicians can get it because a lot of physicians are going to be on the front line. I'm able to work virtually for the most part. There have been a few people that I need to see face to face, but the thought is we definitely need to get it out, and we need to be examples. And when it comes to the vaccine coming out quicker, realizing that everything is faster now, so technology has gotten better. I remember working on vaccines back when I was in college. And I had a pipette and I had to use my thumb, wearing my thumb out, trying to do one at a time. All right. We don't have to do that anymore. All right. You don't have a pre-med student wearing his thumb out on a pipette. Everything's a lot faster now. When it comes to orthopedic surgery, nobody's using a saw like in the Civil War. All right. You have machinery now. So because of that, we're able to produce things a lot faster. And not to worry about that. But the fact is that your vaccines have been around for a while, and we have to get out to the community, and everybody should try to get theirs as soon as possible. If you have questions, go get good information. The barbershop and the beauty shop is cool, but I wouldn't base my immunology based upon my barber's from New Orleans. I don't think he really knows a whole lot about the shot. He ain't Carlos Vital. So we want to make sure that we get good information from reputable people who have our best interests in mind. And we have Black doctors on the front line working on these things right now.
And just to add, most at this point, most healthcare providers, initially it was frontliners, and then from frontliners it went to people who were on the front line. Then they went to healthcare providers and physicians and nurses, and some office staff in your practice can also get the vaccines too. And now there's a program where the vaccines will be implemented by CVS and Walgreens, and to not only nursing homes, they actually go on site, but also you may be eligible to end up getting, if you're a healthcare provider, or even if you're a person above 65, to go to specific sites to get the vaccines as well. And so that should be with your local health department, but also you can check with the hospitals as well for that too.
Just a few more additional questions, gentlemen. I know it's been a long day for you all, and I know we're at our hour ending. Can you tell us, and Dr. Napoleon, you started to discuss your own experience from getting the vaccine. Can you tell us what are some of the common side effects that people have experienced?
I would really say the biggest thing has been arm soreness and flu-like symptoms, where realizing that the vaccine is giving you an introduction so that your body can make a response to it. So I did have the arm soreness, headache, slight fever, overall body aches. And of the people that I know who've gotten the vaccine, the most has been the arm soreness is really what I've seen. And I would say for mine was
I did take some ibuprofen. I did have some difficulty sleeping on that side. And I honestly think I had more side effects than I heard anybody have. But I would say they were mild in nature. They didn't keep me from doing anything. I was able to, do my normal Saturday, Sunday routine. And then honestly, like I woke up Monday, like, what shot? So, and I've had a lot of vaccines, especially if you do a lot of travel. People in the military, I don't see how any of them can be afraid of vaccines because they shoot military people up with so many vaccines. And they don't have any idea. They just stand in line. They just walk down the line. So vaccines are not anything new. Hepatitis vaccine. I've had yellow fever, all of those things because of travel and mission work that I've done and just trying to go enjoy myself in different places. So it's not anything new even though the virus is new. And so the vaccines are new. Understanding that normally when vaccines could take 5 and 10 years to come out. But imagine if we were waiting 5 or 10 years with a virus like this and how many people would die in the meantime. If we waited 10 years, if we did all the, the small animal studies all the way up to the apex animals, and then we waited generations. We're going to see how somebody, goes for 6 months, 10 months, or even 10 years before we introduce the vaccine. So we're able to use the technology that we have and the systems that we have in order to get things out faster. And it seems as if this vaccine, when you look at death rate from COVID, how many people have died from COVID versus how many people have died from the vaccine? Vaccine, very, very small number, if any. All right. And then with COVID, you're looking at how many million people? We have almost 400,000 dead Americans, 1 in 65 dead from this virus. That is where your concern should be at this point. But we still have to focus on just because you get the shot. And I've heard of these stories as well. People are getting the shot believing that, I can go party now and drink and hang out like I want to. No. They're still making sure that this shot is very effective across these multiple variants. You could still get it and still be a super spreader. And I'll tell the saddest story I heard over the break. Somebody went, I'll say this quickly. They went home for the weekend before Thanksgiving. They were supposed to just go to their mama's house and go back to their house where they live with their husband. Came to mama's house, hung out with their homegirl, went to the hookah bar, flew back home. They had a family gathering where everybody had to have COVID-19 tests before they could come. She gave COVID-19 to 19 people inside who were there. 19 out of 25, and her mother-in-law passed away and died.
Wow.
Oh, no.
All right. So realizing that you can still be very active and be a spreader even if you got the shot. It doesn't mean that you didn't get infected. What you're doing is trying to prepare the body's immune response. So let's stay safe. Let's stay safe about what we do because it's easy to let your guard down. You're with your friend from college or high school or whatever it may be. You have a long friendship and y'all just want to get together and just love on one another. But the problem is that can be very dangerous and kill people that you love. Sadly, she's going through a divorce right now. It's like,
my God.
Just mentally can't do it.
Wow.
That hurts your heart.
Exactly, it does. It very does. Dr. 𝗧𝗢𝗡𝗚, have you actually, is it too early to have seen cases where, I think we had a question in the virtual space where you're actually seeing some benefits from getting the vaccine? Not sure how you can really evaluate this early, but just posing the question to you.
Well, you remember, so some people are starting to get their second vaccination now, right? And so it's still going to take some time to see good benefit from it, and the benefit is going to be pretty much when we get to that herd immunity stage. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is we've had patients who had COVID twice. So we had patients who had COVID in July or June, and they had it again like December, January. So remember, the immune response can maybe only last 60 to 90 days. Right. And so some people, and sometimes you can have people who may be emitting the proteins of the coronavirus and they're still positive for a couple months. So the thing is that, we're just like you and Dr. Higgins said, this is a marathon. This is not going to be a sprint, right, to the finish line. And so the biggest thing is once we get the vaccine, we're still going to have to socially distance. We're still going to have to wear our mask for a while. And that's the other thing about this. And also, it may be the point where there's a recent the World Health Organization saying this may be endemic. What that means is this will be with us pretty much for a long, long time. And so the biggest thing is we're going to have to make the preparations, have to do the vaccinations so that we can hopefully make this world a better place to live in.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. Is there any last, because we're well over time and I want to respect your family time as well. Are there any last comments that you all like to make? This has been an awesome conversation. I wish we could have a part 2, 3, and 4, because there's a lot of information to decipher here and to go over and to, continue to dispel these myths that people are receiving and really understand the truths and the evidence-based medicine of how it's important to get this vaccine.
Well, the one thing I would say, well, several things I could say, but the thought is make sure you take care of your mental health. Make information that Dr. Don, the work that you're putting in and spreading this information matters. We as a community matter. The thought that I know that my friends are watching this. It's going to be on my Facebook feed. I know that people are going to look at it, to get good information, and it needs to come from a trusted source. So all of us have a responsibility to make sure that we use whatever platform we have, with all of these MDs and educations that have been shared to us and put into us, and the people who prayed for us, we need to make sure that we're sharing that back out to the community so that they can be safe about what they do. Stick with it. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint, but these things are not new. This pandemic is COVID-19 is new, but we've had these viral spreads before, and we can fight through them, and we can get better and be on the other side. Put it off for now. All of us as doctors should know delayed gratification. Put it, hold those things off for now so that we can have a better time even next year. Hold on.
Amen. And I would just like to say thank you, Dr. Dawn, for having us both on. And it's very important to stay engaged and to be engaged so that we can help to rid this coronavirus. We can conquer it, and so we can all live to develop our God-given talents for the good of all with God's grace.
Amen. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, brothers. Thank you, mentors. You all are everything to me. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you, our families, for us, please, for the time that they offered to us this evening. And we appreciate all the work that you are doing in the community, in your role as physicians, in your homes, everything that you're doing to also spread the word, the truths, that is, and dispel these myths about the vaccine. You all get the vaccine, get it. I mean, just boldly, just get the vaccine. All right, that's what I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna say, leave it at there. Get the vaccine. Like they said, it's a marathon. It's a marathon. So hold on, encourage each other, take care of your mental health. I'm just repeating everything. Make sure your other physical health systems. Don't like a sign that I read in a Houston highway. Don't physical distance from your doctors. All right. Have these conversations with your doctors, have them online or in the office, but don't physical distance from them. Make sure you're getting your routine mammograms, prostate exams, all the chronic conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure, all of these things do matter as well. Don't forget that. And so thank you, gentlemen, again. I appreciate your time. And you all please continue to share this with everyone you know, and you can catch us here again on Live with Dr. Dawn. Take care. Have a good evening. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
God bless you.
I got no rules, I count 'em.